with Psychosis. I am your host, TJ Bowser, and joining me as always is the very handsome, very British Mr. Paul Ashford. What's up, buddy?
Good evening. How are we doing? I'm
Man,
good. I am good. Excited to talk about this film tonight.
yes. I mean,
Yeah,
it's your pick.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's different.
Definitely different. Yeah. Literally went off just a trailer for this one, didn't we?
Yeah, it's one of those
Yeah,
times where
yeah.
we both never seen a film and we just went for it. But first,
Mhm.
before we talk about this week's film, let's talk about a slice of life. Paul, how was it?
It's been good, man. I've been watching quite a lot of stuff. I've caught up. I think I'm one episode off now, finishing the Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix, which is very good. It's very good. Even if you don't like wrestling, I recommend you watch it. Obviously, he's been involved in a lot of scandal recently, but it's very entertaining. Um, I kind of know a lot of it already because I'm a huge wrestling fan, but even so, the way it's done is so good. Just seeing the interviews of all the wrestling superstars and all the backstage staff, etc. But yeah, really been enjoying that. Even the girlfriends got into it a little bit. Um, Watched a lot more 80s films as well because we are on a roll at the moment, including tonight's one. And I picked up a couple of new 4K releases. Finally got some new movies. I've been off a long time of buying movies.
It's been a while.
But dropping through my letterbox this week was Friday the 13th Part 2, the UK release in 4K, which I believe does not have a solo release yet in America, which is
No, you have to buy the box.
yeah, it's in the Paramount Scares, which we talked about.
But if you look
Uh,
but I got a digital version of it, so I'll tell you how the 4K is for the stream.
okay.
Yeah.
That dropped through my letterbox. Super excited to watch that. I haven't seen it yet. Also, I've seen the movie, but not the 4K scan. And just fresh yesterday, this morning was the Nightmare on Elm Street 4K, and I went for the collector's edition, the Warner Brothers lovely hardbox collector's edition, which looks incredible. I love those Warner Brothers collector's editions, man. They look so good. I've got two of them now. I've got
Do
Nightmare.
you want to sidebar real quick and follow up on that? Because of something we just talked about pre-show.
Mm-hmm.
So Rachel Talle, director of Freddy's Dead,
Yep.
also Tank Girl, if you don't know, posted on Instagram that she was at Warner Brothers this past week, and she did some color correction on Freddy's Dead. So one could assume that we are getting the 4K discs that have been coming for like 4 years now, Paul.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if any of you companies are out there listening, Paul and I are very keen on doing part 4. So we want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make it happen.
That is both our favorites for sure.
Yes. Continue, Paul.
But yeah, super. I love the Warner Brothers collector's editions. If you haven't seen them, they're like a real nice hard box with actually, Nightmare has got a steelbook in it. I know you don't like steelbooks. I'm not a massive fan, but it's got the lovely original Nightmare artwork. It looks super cool. It's got postcards. It's limited edition. Looking forward to checking out the scan on that. I've heard very good things. But yeah, it goes nicely with my National Lampoon's Vacation 4K collector's edition. Both of these wicked hard boxes. I wish a lot more studios would pick it up. It's a bit like the Arrow Argento releases, like those nice hard boxes.
Yes.
Super excited to check out both those movies. I've got a few more on the way, but I won't say anything until they land. So I'll keep that for a next episode or another.
Are we ever going to talk about the Trick or Treat blender or
no?
That's for another episode.
Yeah, that's obviously dropping soon as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Other than that, it's been a good week. Watched movies. Played a lot of retro games. Had some friends over in my man cave, my retro man cave. We played some good old games. Went to a massive street market yesterday with my girlfriend. We ate lots of good food, lots of good street food.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been a good week, man, and it's great to be back in the physical media collecting after a short break. How about yourself?
Man, this last week has been very busy. Last week I had to film an ad spot, so I was going around collecting footage in different car garages and stuff, and spent a big portion of the day on Thursday editing my ass off and putting it all together. It's out now, and it all turned out just as how I envisioned it. But I have been hard at doing a lot of this website maintenance crap at work this week, so it's kind of been tedious stuff. None of the fun stuff I normally do. But I've been watching a lot of movies this weekend. To watch a lot of documentaries about the U.S. presidents. One on Theodore Roosevelt, one on Ronald Reagan. Love that stuff. Gonna keep watching it, and I'm gonna say this week's pick, which is 1980 Hollywood Nights, is a rewatchable film, and that was directed by Floyd Muttricks, who also did American Hot Wax. Dick Tracy, he's the executive producer on Dick Tracy, according to Paul's notes here, by the same guy, and Richard Lederer, who also did Exorcist 2.
Exorcist, the Heretic.
That movie's a classic, isn't it? Like an absolute masterpiece. I think that's the one that they talk about. Moving on, and Bill Tennant. So Paul has some of the cast here. And whenever I say some, I mean, he has the tip of the iceberg that is this loaded cast. And when I say loaded, it's like a baked potato with like sour cream, bacon, cheese, hot sauce, and anything else you could possibly shove on that. And that's this cast. So here's some, but not limited to all of the cast. Tony Danza is Duke. Yeah, Tony Danza. It's fucking Tony Danza. Taxi, who's the boss? Michelle Pfeiffer. Fucking Catwoman as Susie Q. Robert Wool as Newbomb Turk, the best character in the entire fucking movie. You might know him from Batman, you know.
Should have got top billing for sure.
Fran Dresser as Sally, looking absolutely premium. Oh my! Randy Gornell as Wheatley. Gary Graham as Jimmy Shine. You might know him from Robot Jocks and Star Trek Enterprise. Stuart Pankin as Ludley Laywick. Earl and Dinosaurs. What's that, Paul?
You remember Dinosaurs, the TV show of the giant?
Oh, the one with the sad ending. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Hashtag spoiler alert. He was the voice of Earl, the dad. You know, the main guy.
Yes. Okay, makes sense. Gaillard Sartain. Sartain? Yeah, as Officer Bimbo. Yes. Chuck in the Ernest movies. That's where I saw him before. Damn it, Paul. You just didn't tell me that last night. It's been sitting in my brain through 3 watches, and it's just been like, I grew up watching this fucking guy be Chuck, and then I watched this entire movie and was like, the fuck did I see this guy? I watched a lot of Ernest growing up. It's the thing. Paul, it's your movie. Read the plot.
Well, it's Halloween night, 1965. And members of the Hollywood Knights, a drag racing club, have just been informed that their cherished Beverly Hills, California hangout, Tubby's Diner, is being demolished to make way for office building. Newbomb Turk, played by Robert Wool, the club's leader, vows to fight back. Duke and his girlfriend Susie Q help Newbomb as they navigate a rough patch in their relationship. Meanwhile, the police work to shut the diner down.
So essentially, this is American Graffiti turned into a sex comedy in the 60s?
1965. Halloween night, 1965.
Pre-Viet. This is like right when Vietnam's going on, or it's like right before Vietnam's going on, right?
Yeah, before, yeah.
So it's really cool glimpse into like that time. Love all this cast. Like I said, we're probably going to talk about that a lot through this episode. So one thing that I want to talk about from the very top is this film isn't structured in the normal way a movie's structured. So it's essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, is it 3 or 4 different stories that play out at once?
So in my mind, there was 2 stories going on. So you've got
there's subplots that spiral off of those as well, because you got to think. So you have Turk, right? And it spiraled off of his story are the Hollywood Knights, like the guys, the initiation guys who are on their own quest. So we have those 2. Then we also have Michelle Pfeiffer and Danza's love story going on. So that's 3.
Yep.
And then we have the nerdy dude and his mom who's trying to go to the talent show.
Yep. Yeah, he's like the graduate, isn't he? He's like.
So that's a whole thing. And then, 5, Bimbo and his partner are also doing things. So we kind of have 5 different stories playing
I'm
out
throwing,
all at the same time that sometimes coincide with each other, and then at the very end make sense.
can we throw in a number 6 then?
What's number 6?
Because
I'm sure I missed it.
we've got the robot jocks guy. I forgot his name. Uh,
Gary,
Jimmy
Jimmy
Shine.
Shine, yes.
He is he's off to the war, isn't he? And it's very foreboding.
Yes, because
Yeah,
they're giving him all this
obviously,
stuff. Because that's
yeah.
whenever we first see the Tony Danza character.
Because
Yeah.
his scenes with Tony Danza, Michelle Pfeiffer's not in those scenes because he drops her off at
So
work.
there's technically 6
It's really
storylines.
foreboding. They're talking to the mechanic guy, and he's like, "Oh, things change, times change," and it's
Yeah.
talking
That's
about
essentially the theme of the movie is change.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's almost like I think it's the end of an era. It's like everything is just about to change. It's a little bit sad actually when you look at
Well,
it.
it's these men transitioning out of this phase in their life and moving on to essentially maturing and becoming stable men and getting lives and having
Yeah,
wives and children and all that stuff. So you're seeing them mature and having to progress, but at the same time, this is a total like product of its time. It's
yeah,
1980. This is peak prank films. Paul and I
mhm,
love them. I mean, Ghoulies 3, I mean, that's one of the best Yank films ever.
yeah,
And this movie is one of those as well. And
yeah,
it brings the pranks and then some.
hmm,
Turk is hilarious.
yeah. He steals
Absolute
the show
hilarious.
easy, easy.
And Bimbo is fantastic with the
Hmm.
slapstick comedy. I mean, like, he's great in the Ernest movies now that Paul said that. It's just all clicking for me. So he's definitely the shoe in for that role here. And
Hmm.
I love how all these characters interact. I think the Tony Danza, Michelle Pfeiffer storyline could have been addressed more, maybe seen more. That was feel a
Yeah,
little bit light, but
I almost
everything
thought that
else
was a
is pretty
separate
great.
movie. It's
Right?
almost like Tony Danza and Pfeiffer. Like it's like, did they have scenes with Turk and the rest? I don't think they
She's
did.
definitely not as developed as an actress here as she is
No,
in '89. Or
no, no.
when do we see her as Catwoman for the first time?
89 was Batman, so Returns was 90, 91, 92.
Yeah, 92. Yeah,
92. Yeah, yeah,
definitely not the same Michelle Pfeiffer. No.
yeah. And obviously a Batman link as well. Turk is
Mhm.
Knox from the 89 Batman.
Mhm.
I recognize it instantly from that movie.
2 Batman links.
Yeah, Batman 89 is my favorite Batman film of all time, easy. Um, so I think that's the first film. This is the first one I've seen him in, other than
Yeah.
Batman.
Yep.
Apparently, I read up a bit about him. He's apparently quite a popular comedian.
Did you get American Graffiti vibes watching this?
Yeah, oh, easy, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I see people saying this is a knockoff of American Graffiti,
Mm.
but
No, the tone's too different, and
yeah,
the way
it's
they
really
they tell
different.
the
This is more of
narrative
like I said,
is way too
this is
unique.
more of a sex comedy, isn't it? This one.
Have you seen a film told this way before?
Sorry, edited this way.
Well, like told, like where we have 6 stories coincide into like one
Uh,
big grander story that then ends
I
with
love.
them
See,
coming
the one
together.
film this reminds me of was oh my god, I've forgotten the name. The 70s one, where they all Dazed and Confused.
Ah,
Dazed
yes, that's totally like this. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Where it's all set over one night. I love films that are all set in one night as well, or like in 24 hours, or however they do it. But yeah, that's got a lot of intertwining. All the kids. Again, it's the end of an era. The kids are the last day of high school, and they're having a giant party at the end. This is almost like a 60s version of
Yeah.
Dazed and Confused. Obviously, came out way before.
Raunchy. This is very raunchy.
Yeah.
Even for the time, I'd say it's pretty raunchy with some of the stuff. There's nudity. There's only top nudity though. I know that later in the '80s, you'd venture down south a little bit more, but
Yeah, there is the scene of the cheerleading scene.
yes, where you see some
Um,
Heine, which is absolutely great and made me giggle both times that I've seen it.
uh-huh.
I love the Yanks. What's your favorite Yank?
Oh man, there's so many. I'm gonna have to go with the one-handed violinist.
I like the farting prep rally, like pep rally. That's fucking
Oh yeah,
hilarious.
that song, yeah.
Yes, but whenever he fucking has his hand in his shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the
man.
jokes are so immature, yet they're so
Yes.
funny, and they just work.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
just,
the
it's just
potato. I love the elaborate prank that Turk comes up with as the cop's like, "Oh, shouldn't he be going to the bathroom about this time?" And then
oh,
like on the spot, he like comes up with this yank. He's like, "You go clog the toilet. You
Yeah.
go grab a potato, make sure it's big enough to fit in the tailpipe. You do this, you do
Yeah.
that. And then it all comes together. And then
Hmm.
what's really funny about that scene is if you notice, the cop essentially strips down naked, leaves the door to the stall open, takes
Yeah.
a shit, has the stall door open the whole time, takes the poop,
Hmm.
and then floods the fucking thing, and he just leaves his gun and everything on the fucking ground while
Yeah.
he's taking the shit. Wow. It's
Yeah.
great. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. It's just it's kind of weird because I know we said there's 3 writers to this movie, and that kind of fits with all
Yeah.
the different stories. I wonder if they like all took on different elements, and then they just kind of blended this into a movie.
I love the couple that's cheating. That kind of
Oh yeah.
that's like a seventh story. So
Yeah.
like you see that at the beginning, you see that in the middle, and then at the very end, you finally
Hmm.
get a conclusion to that story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love it. One of my favorite scenes in this entire movie is whenever they get out of the car and they're still fucking half naked, and he
Yeah.
just fucking throws her on the front on the lawn and continues to go at it. They're continuing to go at it, and then they go on the trampoline and they're
Hmm.
still going at it. And then like what's the nerdy guy's name? Dudley comes over
Yeah.
and is like, "Hey!" And she's like, "Oh!" And then the guy like hurries up, pops off, or hides underneath there. And the whole thing is great. The
Hmm.
way that these characters interact with each other and the staging of these scenes is just
Yeah. Yeah.
top level comedy. I
One
love
one
it.
thing I really like about Dudley, yeah, he is the nerd. He's kind of the guy that he takes the
I'm
fall of a
gonna
lot of
get
the
laid, honey. You're
yeah.
gonna be late.
Everyone, you get how many times do the knights capture him and dress him up or steal his
But
clothes
I
for his
like by the end, he's like, "Okay, guys, if you're gonna do this, don't break it. It's a rental."
yeah.
And it's fucking great. The whole
But
thing's
the cool
great.
thing is they do all these pranks on him. They're not really bullying him, but they're pranking him. At the end,
They're
he actually
essentially using him or what his position is to in
yeah,
throughout this movie to then use that as an opportunity to yank
but he
crowds.
does become a knight by the end, doesn't he?
Yes, he essentially
Yeah.
earns his, which is great because you take that character of the guy going off to war, you take the
Yeah.
Tony Danza character, and you take the Turk character, and you take them all together, and you put them all together, and then they pass the torch to Dudley, who has been like a
Yeah.
side character this entire time, but has
Hmm.
essentially earned his way into this club through the respect of these guys who have just played pranks on him, and because he's taken it so well, he's
Yeah.
become one of them. And it's a
Hmm.
good feel good moment at the end of the movie where you're like, yeah, fuck yeah, Dudley. And it's great, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah, definitely. I love it. Yeah, you think they don't like him all through the movie, but actually they do,
Mhm.
and they actually
He's a
instate
good
him.
sport.
Nice. Yeah, for
And I
sure.
love the subplot of the dudes walking around naked with the tires. The quest, the seemingly impossible quest of being stripped naked with nothing but a tire, then
Yeah.
walking across the city, making it to a radio station by 2 a.m., getting
Hmm.
into this radio station, requesting a song be played that then attempts to try to save the drive in.
Hmm.
And that quest going on, peppered in throughout the story, is hilarious. I
Yeah.
love the antics that they get themselves in, whether that be losing the tires, having to get new tires,
Yeah.
trying to find clothes, hiding in the backs of trucks, just anything to try to not be seen by people, try to not fuck up, try
Yeah.
to not essentially ruin this opportunity to be in the Hollywood Nights. I think even one of them mentioned like this is something that my family's done for years. My
Yeah.
dad was a Hollywood Night, my
That's right. Yeah.
grandfather was. So like this is something like it's like a fraternal organization of sorts, but it's not really tied to a fraternity or something. It's kind of like a men's group,
Yeah.
and
Almost
it's
like a car
cool.
club, isn't it? Yeah, because
Yeah.
they've all got like hot rods and stuff.
But that's we don't really see a lot of our guys in hot rods. They drive a car around, but then it's peppered in. We see scenes of characters driving cars with attractive women
Yeah. Yeah.
and racing, and then that, but that kind of takes like a back seat to the
Hmm.
main 6 stories, as I mentioned.
There is a rather almost squeezed in drag race, which is just
Yes,
bizarre. Like
I
in
like
the
how they hop out, race, and leave them there.
yeah, it's just like you don't know who's even driving the cars, but one of them wins, and that's it. Yeah, it's like, huh? They
I
just they,
love the scene where okay, you know what I'm talking about. They're
mhm.
at the drive-in and Tarzan is there with
Even
Cheetah
mentioned
and what's the other girl's name?
the two like
Mm.
surf babes, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, yes.
Yeah,
And so they're talking, and he's like, you know, you really shouldn't eat that stuff. And he's eating a Twinkie while he's like doing that, and then we get that really pervy shot of the girl's tits from
Yeah.
Turk's perspective, and it just
Yeah.
stays there,
And
and
he's
then it
just
flashes back to Tuck, and he goes back to Turk, and then it goes back
yeah.
to the tits, and it's just like so good. The editing of that scene is just so good because you totally get the whole thing of like Turk's not listening.
Yeah.
He's totally looking at these girls, and
Hmm.
it's neat.
Yeah. Yeah. And probably I'd say probably I want to say it's my favorite scene, the funniest scene for me, which is also a bit tragic, is Turk and the lady like Fran Drescher, Sally,
Mhm.
in the back seat of her car.
Oh, the man's worst nightmare. Paul,
So
tell us all about
he,
this.
he somehow manages to well, actually, yeah, he woos Sally, played by Fran Drescher. So through that in the movie, she's got like an older boyfriend who's like
Yes.
not into pranks at all,
Very
not into
posh, as
stuff.
you would say.
Yeah, yeah, and he dresses like strangely, like an old man, almost like Sherlock Holmes, like a real bizarre brown suit, hat, outfit, completely different to the knights and all the guys at the drive-in. Um, Although he does have a nice car because when he's trying to woo her at the start, she literally jumps in his car and they shoot off. But all throughout the movie, he's like you can just see he just sighs at everything. Then he's like when they're in the audience and then Turk comes on and does his farting rendition, he's just like this isn't funny, and she's like laughing. Oh my god, it's Turk, he's great. And then you can see throughout the film they're not a match at all.
Yeah.
And then finally she dumps him and gives Turk a chance, and they get it on in the back seat of the car. Um, and she hasn't even taken her clothes off or
They don't even
anything.
get to the back seat. They're in the
No, well,
front
she
seat
gets to the back
pissing.
seat. He's in the front seat, and he's just looking down. He's like, and he prematurely
Yes.
comes. And she's like, Turk, did you come?
What
And
did
he's
you
like,
do, Turk?
yeah, yeah. And he's like, a little. I felt so bad for him. And she calls him like immature, doesn't she, because of that? And I'm like, oh, come on, man, don't knock the guy when he's down.
I mean,
Yeah,
Fran looked great.
yeah. It was so funny, but you just, oh my god, you felt so gutted for Turk.
Yeah.
um, he's not. He doesn't really, yeah, because that was his only chance out of the whole movie. Like I said, we did mention there's a lot of ladies in the
And
movie.
what's with that weird neighborhood watch group trying to get rid of the Knights at the beginning? It's like briefly mentioned but never followed up on.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the reason why the diner is shutting down and the drive-through shutting down.
Ah,
So
okay.
they've managed to get it shut down, and they want the Knights driven out of Hollywood. So yeah, that's kind of why. But
Well, I think they think by shutting down the diner they're going to stop the Knights, when in
yeah,
reality, that's just going to drive them to another location. So
exactly, yeah. But yeah, like you said, the police in this are funny. Officer Bimbo. So when they first
they're
said Bimbo, I was like,
definitely the stereotypical inept police officers.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And you kind of almost feel a bit bad for him at
And you
points.
got the skinny one and you got the fat one. I mean,
Yeah. so, so yeah, Bimbo Clark is the name of the other guy. So Bimbo.
yes,
Clark.
and they
Um,
bounce off each other really, really well.
yeah, yeah.
I love
Bimbo.
when Clark's in the car by himself and he's like
Yeah,
flips down the mirror and he takes the marker and he goes.
yeah. Just draws on a mustache, and that's he says, he goes. He goes, oh, do you think I look good with a moustache? And Bimbo's like, oh yeah, you look perfect, like a perfect horse's ass or something. Yeah, bizarre. But
Did you hear about the man with the 5 penises?
yeah. And he says that to like a group of old ladies as well, doesn't
Yeah.
he? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's very crass. The soundtrack, I mean, you mentioned the soundtrack. It's got like
Beach Boys galore. Definitely
yeah,
that
every
era.
60s hit you can think of is played out in this in this movie, and it works really well. And there's even like a lot. There's another side plot. The whole doo-wop thing.
Uh-huh.
You know, when especially with the naked pledge guys, they come across like the group of the doo-woppers.
Yes.
I think yeah,
They're
they're called
singing
like,
on the road inside of the
yeah,
movie.
just like singing on the road, and they get them to like do them a little ditty. Don't a ditty?
Yes.
Is that the right word? Yeah. It's just, yeah, it's just there's just so many things thrown into this movie you can't help but not be
And then
entertained.
they kind of, you're like, are they gonna even tell the DJ? And it
Yeah,
kind of just left. They disappear, and then you finally catch up at the radio station, and they walk in. And you're like, yeah, they're gonna stay true to their word. This is
yeah, yeah.
awesome, and it's cool. I
Hmm.
like that whole thing. It's neat.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's yeah, it's definitely a product of this time of its time. This movie.
Yeah.
Um, I can't believe, honestly, I can't believe I've never heard of it before. I'd never heard of this film. Obviously, it's 1980, so I'm mad on my 80s films. This one just completely passed me by for some reason. I did read a bit about its box office. I think it did recoup its budget at the box office, but it just wasn't a huge hit. I think
Mm.
obviously coming off the back of things like American Graffiti and that sort of stuff, there was a lot out there at the time. But yeah, it's just crazy how this is part. Apparently, it was played on network TV in America all the time after its release, and
Mm.
that's where it gained a following in America. But as for the UK, I'd never heard of it, so I don't think it's ever had a Blu-ray release over here. I know there is one in America, but it's obviously probably a limited edition, limited run one, which is a shame because it's such a cool movie and there's just so many breakout stars in
It
this.
is on Tubi TV for those
Oh
in the
yeah, of
US.
course. Yeah, yeah. I need to check that. We've got Tubi in the UK now. I don't know if it's the same content.
Regions and all that
Yeah,
jazz.
but it is kind of strange how Tony Danza's top build. He's in it right at the start as well, and obviously Michelle Pfeiffer just appears as
And it's
well.
really just cameo appearances. It's kind
Yeah,
of like
it is.
in Grizzly 2 when George Clooney, Laura
Yeah,
Dern, and Charlie Sheen are top billed, and they're in the movie for fucking like 5 minutes.
yeah, exactly that. It's kind of weird how like their subplot story is just almost doesn't fit into the
I
rest of
think
the
we
movie.
see Fran Drescher more than we see Pfeiffer. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
we see Pfeiffer? No, Drescher naked at all? All the girls
No,
around her are naked, but
yeah,
her.
yeah, yeah. There's a scene when they
It's
go to a
you
party.
can clearly tell the nudity was not in her contract.
Yeah, definitely. um, yeah, that's the pool party scene. But she is hot. I didn't know who she was. I'd never seen The Nanny, which apparently
Mm.
is what she's most famous for. Is that correct?
Definitely, yeah, definitely an American sitcom type thing.
Right.
She's really big over here specifically for that TV show. So
Yeah.
that's essentially. I saw her and I was like, "Holy hell, that's who it is." So, yeah.
But yeah, so we mentioned at the start, the thing that drew us to this film was the trailer.
Yeah, it's a really
I
great
just
trailer.
happened to come across the trailer online, um, and it's I guess it's almost a bit Animal Housey. Maybe it's like it doesn't do anything.
Very Animal Housey in tone with the trailer, but then when
Yeah,
you watch the movie, like we said, it's more along the lines of like an updated American Graffiti, like American Graffiti 10 years later or whatever type
yeah, yeah,
thing. Uh, American Graffiti takes place in the 50s, right? I don't know. I can't
yeah.
remember.
Hmm. So,
Correct
but
us if we're wrong.
yeah, I love the fact it's all over one night. I love the fact it's 1960s,
Yeah.
and most importantly for me, it's set on Halloween night. Although they, other than the pranks,
It's 100% a Halloween movie, so that's
I
something we
mean,
haven't really talked about. It is a
yeah,
Halloween movie. It's mentioned multiple times. There's
yeah.
even one gag in the movie where they dress up as a werewolf to scare
Oh yeah, it's
Dudley.
Turk, isn't it? Yeah,
The first time we
yeah.
see Dudley get yanked is
Mhm.
Turk wearing the werewolf mask.
Yep. And he puts it on as well to try and
That
score
is
that
the most
girl.
Halloween thing about this movie.
Yeah. I mean, there are bits where you see like some trick or treaters in the background and stuff, briefly
Yes.
with costumes on, and it's obviously mentioned it's Halloween night. But yeah, that is about it. And obviously, there's the party. They have the big party, don't they? At the college. Obviously, another good gag from the movie when the guys are delivering like the massive bowl of punch. Is it?
Oh my
Yeah.
god, yes. So the
And
catering
Turk,
company rocks up.
yeah, Turk intercepts it. He goes, "Oh no, bring it around the back. Bring it around the back. We'll take that." They literally just all stand around it and piss in it or pee
Yep.
in it. And
And
then
that
there's
becomes a
one,
gag the rest of the movie.
yeah, literally everyone's got something different to say. So there's the woman, the uptight,
Little wangy.
yeah, like I've had this taste in my mouth before. Yeah, and it's Bimbo, and Officer Bimbo is like, tastes a bit wangy. um, yeah, it's just silly. It sounds so
And
stupid. I was
then
talking about it, but
later
you watch
when
it,
they're
it's like,
making out in the back of the car for like it's later in the film, they're burping. and
Oh
they're like,
yeah,
"Oh, I can still taste it."
bitter taste
And
in my mouth. Yeah, it's gross, but it's funny. It's stupid, but it's funny.
yes, it's that gross humor us Neanderthals love.
Yeah,
Haha, pee and drink, they drink it,
yeah.
type stuff.
But amongst all this like crazy, silly gags, like I mentioned, there is the thing with the guy, Robot Jock's guy, who is about to go off to war. But they don't say it's Nam, but you know from the timeline it's
I
going to
like
turn
how he
into
mentions his
war.
girlfriend was his period was late last month, and that almost
Oh,
kept him out of the goddamn war.
oh
I
yeah,
ain't
they just
taking
laugh
people
it
with
off.
kids.
Yeah, they just kind of laugh it off. But it's almost like they're making out that he's going away to join the army. It's not a
Yeah.
big deal. But
I'll still
watching it
send
as
you the magazines. This will be here waiting for you when you come
that's
back.
right.
Yada
And
yada yada.
they've gifted him that amazing yellow hot rod.
So cool.
And he's saying, "Oh, I probably won't see any action. I'm just going to be." I forgot what he said. He's just implying he's not going to actually go in. He's
Yeah.
not going to see any action. He's going to be like in an office or something for the war. But obviously, we know different because the Vietnam War is literally about to explode.
Yeah. Little does he know things are gonna heat
Yeah,
up.
so it's kind of very foreshadowing, and that is a
It
very
is.
different
It's
tone to
eerie in
obviously.
that way because this is a glimpse
Yeah,
of pre-war America in that time.
yeah,
As we know, things would just be turned into political turmoil and just unravel at the seams for things here and, of course, abroad in Vietnam. So,
yeah. You can just imagine him turning up in Full Metal Jacket.
mhm.
He thinks he's going to just be in the army for Ben.
It's
That kind of
definitely like a prequel to Full Metal Jacket. If you
yeah,
seeing, yeah, that
yeah,
type of.
definitely. You can see a lot of these sort of characters go into Full Metal
You could
Jacket.
totally put Joker from Full Metal Jacket in this film, and he'd fit along with the
Yeah,
Hollywood Knights.
exactly that. Yeah, and the whole Duke and Susie Q thing. So that's Tony Danza and Pfeiffer. It's kind of weird because she's got not an interview, a audition actually for a Hollywood role.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to do it, and he's upset because she's working at the drive-in and she wears this tiny little outfit, tiny little
I'm
shorts.
afraid we won't see each other when I go to college. You're going to UCLA.
Yeah, yeah. But it's kind of weird because obviously that's almost a bit of foreshadowing of like real life relationship issues. Because
Yeah.
when you're at school, college,
But it
it's all
doesn't
fun.
dwell on those. It kind of introduces them and then moves on.
Yeah, exactly that. But then you get to the ending of the movie, and it's kind of all happy family. Well, not happy families. Like they have a big send off at the end of the film
Yeah.
at the dine-in. Everyone's there. Even
The passing of the torch, the
yeah,
saying of goodbyes, and the way that the movie ends with the drive-in, not drive-in, but the diner like turning off its lights and then the credits
yeah.
rolling. It's
It's
so
kind of
good.
yeah, it's kind of sad, isn't it? It's just like
Yeah.
ah. But yeah, I just really enjoyed this film. It's just it's not
It's different.
yeah, it's different. It's not an award-winning movie. It's for some reason it hasn't got the reputation of stuff like Animal House.
Probably because of accessibility, and it probably didn't have the marketing that Animal
Yeah,
House did. So
no, I mean I'd never heard of this film. I mean, the Hollywood Nights doesn't sound like a high school or a 60s sex
no.
comedy or anything like that. It just sounds a bit. I don't know what it sounds like. It almost sounds
That
like
and
a
when
masterpiece.
people in the '80s want to watch a movie about pre-America Vietnam,
I don't know. That's a good
like,
question.
mhm.
Well, I do kind of like 80s movies that are set in the 60s.
Yes,
I recently watched the one of Kelly Preston, which I completely forgot the name of, and that was a similar film, 80s movie, but set in the 60s. And it's kind of crazy watching these films, thinking, "Oh, this is like made in 1980, but it's set in 1965." So that's like
yeah,
today, a film being made today, but set in 2000. That's just
yeah.
crazy to think. The time difference is like nothing. So I think anything from the 60s is like ancient history now. So yeah, so we see a film made today that's set in 2000, you'd be like, oh my god, that's not ancient history. But yeah, I loved it. I did love this film very much. How about yourself?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It's not the best of the genre, but I'd
No.
say it's a good enough to watch and watch
Hmm.
again. It definitely holds up more than like let's say Revenge of the Nerds, because upon like modern lenses, Revenge of the Nerds is just fucking weird. Especially that first movie.
Yeah,
But
I do love Revenge of the Nerds though.
Yes.
I can when I first saw that film, the first few times, all that stuff that's controversial today, I didn't even see as a problem. I didn't bat an eye. I just found it funny.
Different era.
Different era, yeah. So I can't. I try not to criticize. I've seen things where the cast from that film have like apologized and they feel bad for doing those scenes, but at
They
the
were
time
they
it
were
was,
doing a job.
yeah, they were doing a job. But at that kind of time, that period in time, the
I
'80s,
guess you can't like it's like what making Gaspar Noé apologize for Irreversible.
yeah, exactly. It's strange. I think that Revenge kind of been a bit blackballed now, isn't it? Because of that, because of those scenes.
Yep.
Obviously, today, yeah, if anyone that watches today who wasn't from that era, they'll be like, "Whoa, what the heck is this?"
Not a
This is
lot of that in this movie though.
no,
There's
not at all. I mean, there was
decent representation. There might be some questionable jokes here and there, but nothing that's glaring.
yeah. I mean, the only one that really stood out to me as a bit questionable was there was a bit of a Ku Klux Klan joke with
Ah,
naked pledges. They find some clothes, and it's just like blankets, and it's like white blankets, and they put the white blankets on, and there's like a couple of trick or treaters come along. Do you remember?
uh-huh.
And they literally stand up, and it looks like they're in cloaks and all that.
I
But
thought Turk says something to them about that though.
he does, yeah. It's mentioned. It's mentioned to say that it's a Ku Klux gag.
Yeah.
Um, that's the only thing I was like, oh, not something
Hmm.
you should find funny, I guess. But yeah, it's just so silly. The gags in this are so silly. I mean, we're there laughing our ass off at a premature ejaculation gag, so that kind of says it all,
It
really.
was well done though. It was a well done premature ejaculation gag
Yeah,
at that.
yeah. Compared to other premature ejaculation scenes that we see.
Yes, we actually that's a future episode as we're going to be ranking our top 5 premature ejaculation scenes by intensity, of course.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
So have you watched any of this guy's films, this Floyd Mutrix? Have you watched this American Hot Wax thing?
I think I saw American Hot Wax back in the day. I definitely
Yeah.
remember the cover. Um, but no, he hasn't done too much, has he? Other than that was probably the most famous film he's done.
Mhm.
Um, obviously, I saw Dick Tracy in the cinema when it came out.
Yeah, that's
He
underrated.
executive produced that. Yeah, yeah. At the time, I really didn't like it. I loved the characters in it. I loved the face, obviously the makeup and all that. But didn't it come out at the same time as it flopped massively? Didn't it? It was around the same time as
You have to
Batman.
like that genre of music that it's homaging to. No, not music,
Yeah,
but genre of movies that film is homaging to.
yeah.
I'd say to really enjoy that movie.
Hmm.
I can appreciate it for what it is, but
I think if I watched it today, I'd absolutely love it.
yeah.
But back then, it was hyped beyond belief. I was only a kid when it came out. It was hyped beyond belief. There was Dick Tracy merchandise all over TV, everything, and then it came out.
They had the machine.
Yeah, I think it was. They kind of based it towards kids, but it really wasn't a kids movie.
Yeah. I mean, there's RoboCop figures and Starship Troopers, so
Yeah, and it was a Disney movie as well, I believe. Or it was Touchstone. Touchstone's part of Disney, something like that. So yeah, bizarre.
yes, there needs to be a good release of this film at some point from one of these companies because it is a damn fun one. And like we said, the cast is just littered and loaded with familiar faces. And
Yeah,
it's competently directed. Editing's a little bit spotty, but like I said, we
yeah,
are taking six storylines and
yeah,
intertwining them together to one cohesive story that makes sense. And like Paul says, it kind of takes place over the course of one night.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
and the movie's about
it's
an hour, 36 minutes long, so it doesn't overstay its welcome,
yeah.
especially in a modern era where everything's 3 hours. It's a breath of
Mm.
fresh air. Paul, where would you rate this out of
So
5?
I originally said 3 out of 5 because it's silly, it's fun, but I kind of want to go 3.5 out of 5 because
Okay.
it's pretty heartwarming. It's just a fun movie. You're not going to be bored watching it, but yeah, the editing may be all over the place, but it's just hour and a half set over one night, Halloween night, 60s. Great music, great cast, great little girls. I'm gonna go 3.5 out of 5. How about
I
you?
will have to agree with you completely. About 3.5 out of 5. There's some room here for improvement,
Yeah.
story wise, 100%. Narrative wise, I mean, like the way structurally,
Hmm.
it could be tightened up a little bit. That's kind of what hinders the film, but the performances, the comedy, everything is there. Yeah, 3 out of 5 for me.
Yeah.
Definitely rewatchable, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for a physical release.
Yeah. I would pick up a nice release of this for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is the first of our Halloween episodes
Hmm.
for this month. We will be back in the coming weeks. Let's look at the calendar real quick. So I pop it up next week. We have news in on the 28th. We will be back. Well, 21st, we will be. No, not 21st. I'm looking at the wrong day. The 22nd, we will be back next week with news, physical media stuff. And the 29th, we will be doing a review of Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, because 4 is
One of my
curse.
favorites.
I love that movie. Where's that one? Right there. Call of Thorn, all that stuff. People hate it because of all that cult stuff. I think it's rad. I think it's cool. It's got some cool kills. It's got that one guy that was in Silent Night, Deadly Night playing Michael Myers. It's really cool. Yeah, I got the mask from part 5 over there. I love it so fucking much. But yeah, we'll talk about that and how much I love it and why I love it, because there's a whole story behind it.
Ah,
Paul, I hope you appreciate it
sounds
as
good
much
to
as I
me.
do, but we'll find out then. That is in
Hmm.
2 weeks. Next week, we will be back with the news. Paul, thank you for joining me. And of course, thank you for all you listeners out there for joining me. Thank you for all the people on the live stream. We appreciate the views. Paul, anything you want to say before we go?
Just thank you very much for listening, everybody, and please check out this movie on, even it's on Tubi. Just tell us what you think.
Yes. For sure. And if you want to listen to more podcasts just like this one, head over to projectlouder.net, the home of so many podcasts just like this one. High quality stuff available on all audio content platforms. Go do it now. projectlouder.net. I'm TJ Bowser. That's Paul Ashford. It's been an absolute doozy of an episode.
Mhm.
We'll catch you next week. Same bat time,